Now, after 15 years of church, 15 years of business, 15 years of marriage and family, after the lessons I've learned in Africa, and I'll tell you what more did for me. It took me across to understand what God wants to do with this continent, because I dealt with those cultures. Now I got it. And now the reason for getting on a plane, you may think it came alive for me 10 years ago. No, now I understand. Now the work begins. And let me tell you something, Richard. You know the story of Joseph in the Bible?
Yes.
Joseph
Pit.
Joseph
Potiphar's
came
out.
from the pit to the palace. But let's not forget, in between was Potiphar's house. You have to understand, and I hope I'm speaking to those who are in an in-between right now, the toughest place for anybody is when you thought Potiphar's house was the palace. I mean, you know, you could have worked a job or a company that you thought this is it, and then it's no longer there. That place is actually, it's almost better if it never started. Because this Potiphar's house, where you thought this is the one you told your brothers about, you've been made the supervisor, you're in charge, you're in a foreign land, you're senior, you've arrived. You're the one making the calls, even over the people of the land.
Yep.
And you're in Potiphar's house. And then you go to jail after Potiphar's house. That period can be the most trying, most painful period of a believer. That's where most people leave God, not in Potiphar's house, not even from the pit to Potiphar's house. You'll think this one, God, there's something here. But after you go to jail after Potiphar's house, you can faint, because there you are forgotten. He said the butler forgot him. There you are orchestrated from information. You don't know what's happening, and you're just thinking about, I never did that thing.
You're trapped.
Being accused of, you're trapped. You're in between. This is the place most of us will lose our lives, our faith, our journey. Check most of these radio DJs who've done very well, and the place where they decided to quit their walk with God, it was in between.
Let me ask you, what is the role of the prison? Because that's where you're talking about.
That prison, it's a very humbling place. I believe it is the final sharpener for you as a pencil to now come out and be used by God to write His story. It's the final place of reckoning and the final place of emptying you from, can I tell you the prison for the disciples after Jesus died? Those 3 days, they went back fishing. They said, wait a minute, he's gone. He's actually gone. Yeah, he told us he'll be back in 3 days, but even 3 days we can't wait. I'm done. I've gone back fishing.
It's over.
It's over. That place is a test of your grit for everything you've ever believed. And every man and every woman has that prison. It's the making point of destiny. And when Job went through his prison, when Joseph went through his prison, David was doing okay until oil touched his head. David's ignorance of his daughter being raped was as a result of things he had gone through with his own father and also with Saul. I like what one of my pastors says. He says, David was used by his father. He just used to send him. He didn't see him being of any. Used by his father, abused by Saul, misused by Michal, his wife. By the time you see him ignoring the fact that his daughter has been raped, and Absalom is waiting to for his father to deal with this thing, David's history has interfered with his fatherhood. So everyone's prison will come to to tame our desires, to tame our anything that is in you that is left that still says, I'm Richard, I'm the star. It comes to kill it. And my departure from mode was that, because I thought I had arrived. I was sure this is it. I looked at everything. Financially, it sorted me out. It did wonders for my family and I, but it never went. I mean, if I tell you, at that company in 2015, they wanted to list on the London Stock Exchange and they were saying the least valuation we'll have is $1 billion. They were chasing us, JP Morgan, Credit Suisse, name it. I was to retire at 40. Retire. I had all these things about how I will build 1,000 churches as part of my tithe. God said, okay. Bro, what a journey. And so it's been a journey mixed with interesting emotions, but eventually you come to say, I trust you, God. I'm going to trust you. Because the company, just to give you essence, got too big. We took a very large convertible. I can't disclose much because I'm bound by some agreements. But we took a very large convertible and eventually we merged and we were acquired. And I'd have wanted things to go differently, but that's how God wanted it to go. And I walked away very quietly with whatever little I had. And I said, okay, God. But God had dipped me into understanding. I brought you to Kenya to settle my people. That's what I brought you here to do. Every experience I've given you was to help you understand this. Now you're of age. Now you have the networks. I've opened doors for you. Now execute on this one thing that I've called you to do. And that's where I am.
That's wow. You know, that's an incredible story. I want us to touch a little bit. I mean, there's so many lessons in that, but you've said it all. I've seen you begin to speak in things during the art festival. I sat down with you and you said some things that I was just like, I don't think I would have ever had anybody in this life say this. Where with Beulah City and what you're doing in terms of real estate, what you're saying has never been said in this country before. And now hearing your story, I'm beginning to understand your crazy way of thinking. In fact, the word is not crazy, but the word is faith way of thinking. For you now, it's a possibility and it can be done. When I hear about your history and the steps that you've taken and the obedience that you have to God, all of this makes sense. And that's why I'm so glad we've been talking for the last 3 hours. Okay. So share people, first and foremost, even before we talk about Beulah City, what is it about this country and this continent that you feel makes us a lighthouse in this season, in this time?